Hello, I'm Denis Waitley. What a pleasure and privilege it is for me to be part of the Foundations for Success series, honoring the timeless wisdom of one of my most revered colleagues and friends, Jim Rohn. Being of the same vintage as Jim, having known him up close and personal for over 40 years, having learned from him, internalized many of his principles into my own life, and having traveled with him worldwide, eagerly observing and relishing those special times sharing the platform with him, I feel especially honored and qualified to comment on his extraordinary ongoing contribution to high-performance human achievement. One of the earliest concepts I learned from Jim is that there's very little difference between those who are uncommonly successful and the rest of the population. Jim said the little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it's positive or negative. This module on attitude is one of the most critical lessons to grasp and internalize for enduring happiness and fulfillment. Jim teaches us that negative is normal, and that it's imperative for us to disrupt the negative thought process and avoid the trap of being purveyors of bad news. Jim and I were both fans of the legendary ABC newscaster, the late Paul Harvey, who often joined us at the huge success rallies around the country in the 1980s. Harvey said that he was appalled by the way the local, national, and world news is portrayed on a daily basis, with all the focus on what's wrong and images of catastrophes and violence. Beyond the need to be informed about the ills of society in order for us to learn how to improve conditions and future outcomes, there's an alarming emphasis on crime, natural and man-made disasters, and human cruelty. Paul Harvey suggested that the reason we become so morbidly curious whenever we see, hear, or read about human indignities is that we're glad we weren't the victims of the day. Grateful that we were not part of the tragedy of the day, we're able to better justify our insulated, less risky, timid routines of playing it safe. In this module, Jim will illustrate the diseases of attitude, including indifference, indecision, doubt, worry, and being overly cautious. By concentrating on what is wrong with society, we find ourselves unable to spend much time thinking about what we're going to do right or what we can do right. We become spectators instead of players in the game of life. As Jim put it, better to live 30 years full of adventure than 100 years safe in a corner. It's not how long you live, but how you live. When Jim and I sometimes shared the platform traveling throughout Australia many years ago, he always had his flip chart and magic markers to illustrate the key points for each module in his workshop. I enjoyed sitting in the audiences and taking copious notes along with the other attendees. On more than one occasion, he'd draw two symbols in the Chinese language side by side in Chinese characters to define the English word crisis. Now, I may not be totally accurate, but I recall Jim saying that the symbols for opportunity and crisis were those same two symbols, and that in the Chinese language, they were interpreted as meaning opportunity riding on a dangerous wind. Through the centuries, the Chinese have come to understand that adversity can either become the mother of invention, or to a person with a negative outlook and attitude, the mother of apprehension and premonition. Jim teaches that we can succeed both from inspiration and also out of desperation. In this module on attitude, Jim also will reinforce why 5 minutes of complaining is a total waste of those 5 minutes. And I learned from Jim to stop complaining and start training and gaining. He was also fond of saying, stop stewing and start doing. One of my primary role models and friends, along with Jim Rohn, was the great Earl Nightingale. Some of you may remember that Earl was best known for his world-renowned audio recording, The Strangest Secret, which he eloquently defined in succinct, understandable language. Earl Nightingale said that the strangest secret is that we become what we think about most of the time. And he referred to Jim as one of the authentic business thought leaders of our era, and wisely counseled me to pay close attention to Jim's style of talking intimately with his audiences rather than merely lecturing to them or selling them your ideas. According to Earl, if your stuff is good enough, the students will want to take it home and share it with others. What Earl told me that first day I met Jim Rohn is that what set Jim apart from most personal development keynoters was the clarity of his message, delivered with modesty, humor, and real-life stories, but without the need for the arm-waving and the showboating. On one of our speaking tours throughout Australia, Earl Nightingale was also on the program, and he told us of his visit with his son to the Great Barrier Reef, which stretches 1,800 miles from New Guinea to Australia. He noticed that the coral polyps on the inside of the reef, where the sea was tranquil and quiet in the lagoon, appeared pale and lifeless, while the coral on the outside of the reef, subjected to the surge of the tide and the power of the waves, were bright and vibrant, with splendid colors and flowing growth. Earl asked his guide why this was so. "It's very simple," came the answer. "The coral on the lagoon side dies rapidly, with no challenge for growth and survival, while the coral facing the surge and power of the open sea thrives and multiplies because it is challenged and tested every day." Jim and I both learned many gems of wisdom from Earl Nightingale and other early pioneers in the professional and personal development movement. In this program, Foundations for Success, you'll understand why Jim's teachings are both timeless and timely, and why they've been embraced by today's leading authorities on living successfully, as well as by the new younger generation of peak performers. In this module on attitude, a centerpiece in Jim's philosophy is that we are most affected by how we think things are, and that poor thinking habits keep most people poor. When we talk about faith and belief, we have to refer to the scriptures that teach us, "Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee." This simple statement cuts both ways, like a two-edged sword. Faith is the key to unlock the door of success for every human being, or it is the lock that imprisons and keeps that human being from ever experiencing success. Here's a power which every person has, but which few people use consciously. One individual does not possess this power above another, or to a greater degree. Everyone has it, since everyone lives and has consciousness. The question then is not, do we have the power? It is merely, are we using it correctly? As a positive power, faith is the promise of the realization of things hoped for and unseen. As a negative power, it is the premonition of our deepest fears and unseen darkness. There is simply the replacement of faith with its opposite belief, despair. Much has been written through the ages and in recent years concerning the self-fulfilling prophecy. My old friend and philosopher, the late S.I. Hayakawa, referred to the self-fulfilling prophecy as a statement that is neither true nor false, but is capable of becoming true if it is believed. Your attitude can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's the idea that what you fear or expect most will likely come to pass. The body manifests what the mind harbors. A positive attitude is the single most outwardly identifiable trait demonstrated by a winning human being. It is pure and simple optimism in the face of all odds. Scores of achieving people in every walk of life are all around us, and yet few of us ever think of the long and arduous process that led them step by step to their goals. In 2007, I happened to be in the audience when a 40-something-year-old woman gave the commencement address to young graduates at Harvard University. She acknowledged that the arena was filled with superachievers for whom failure would represent success for most of the world's population. But her theme that day was about the benefits of failure. That failure is not only the fertilizer of success, but that when you reach rock bottom, you have a solid foundation of reality upon which you can build lifelong fulfillment. She acknowledged that failure strips away the veneer of pretending to reveal the true grit of the person inside. She was living on welfare, a single mom who had lost her own mother to the ravages of MS at an early age, battling with depression and realizing that she, like her parents, seemed destined to repeat the family cycle of poverty. And then there was that fateful day in 1990, while waiting for the train bound from Manchester to London, that she saw him. Or was it her imagination? Young, innocent, curious, bespectacled, with the Beatles-style haircut. her hero, the future star of her book and movie series, Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling has sold over 400 million copies of the series, which also has become the highest grossing motion picture series in history. She's the richest self-made woman in the world because her vision trumped her circumstances on that special tipping point day. History is filled with individuals who overcame enormous handicaps and obstacles to become successful in their own ways. They all wanted something special for themselves, in spite of their early track record, in spite of their bloodlines or their home lives. They all had that desire to win. They wanted to win, and they expected to win. The real winners in life are people who've developed a strong, positive attitude. They have the ability to move in the direction of their goals or images that they set or roles they want to play, and will tolerate little distraction. In the face of discouragement, mistakes, and setbacks, this inner drive or commitment keeps them moving upward towards self-fulfillment. Attitude, it's not static. It's an emotional state. The great physical and mental motivators in life, survival, hunger, thirst, revenge, love, all are charged with emotion. Two key emotions dominate human motivation with opposite but equally dramatic results: fear and desire. Fear is the most powerful negative motivating force in the human system. It is the great compeller and the great inhibitor. Desire, conversely, is like a strong positive magnet. It attracts and reaches, opens, directs, and encourages plans and achieves goals. Desire triggers memories of pleasure and success and excites the need to replay these and to create new winning experiences. The consuming words of the optimistic person are likely to be, I want to, I can, I see opportunity, I will. Desire is that emotional state between where you are and where you want to be. Desire is a magnetic positive tension. Positive tension produced by desire is like a bow pulled taut to propel the arrow to the bullseye. Through the years, I've been fortunate to have worked with Super Bowl champions, World Series winners, and world-class amateur athletes, helping them gain that mental edge that is at the heart of all peak performance. At the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio, I'll be there in the stands, silently cheering them on. Why would they practice for 4 years just to test themselves against world-class standards? First, winners discover a talent within. They use self-honesty to do an assessment of their potential. They find something that they love, that they're good at doing, and they live by choice, not chance, and feel responsible for their failures and successes. They find coaches and mentors who help them train that talent into skills and habits. And by working with a coach with a proven track record of success, they learn the fundamentals that need to be rehearsed and internalized on a daily basis. It takes about a month to learn a new skill, but it takes about a year to make that skill a muscle memory, a habit like driving your car or flying an airplane or excelling in sports and business and the professions. They believe in their dreams when that's all they have to hang on to. In other words, they feel deserving of success and feel that self-esteem comes before performance by giving them permission to invest in themselves. They imagine themselves in the winner's circle with clear, vivid emotional images, and then they're motivated by the rewards of success or desire rather than the penalties of failure, which is fear. They are the optimists who have faith in outcomes, the essence of a positive mental attitude. You're going to gain much from this module on attitude. Attitude truly is either the lock on or key to your door of success, and no one hits this home better than the mentor to the masters, Jim Rohn.